Slave Knight Gael and the Ringed City. Halfway through our journey, we meet one of the oddest characters in all of Dark Souls. A man weeping and begging by an altar. He doesn't seem like he's anybody of note, but he ends up being the most powerful person to ever have existed, but not when we meet him. When we meet Gael, Slave Knight Gael, he says, merciful goddess, mother of the forlorn, who have no place to call their own, please bear witness to our resolve. Fire for Ariandel. Fire for Ariandel. And the ash to kindle the flame. And he turns to look at us and he says, wait, you've the same scent as that woman. Then you must be an Ashen One. You must be. You don't know how long I've searched. Oh, don't mind me. Didn't mean to fall apart. Now, Ashen One, I have a kindness to ask of you. My lady lives in the cold land of Ariandel. I need you to show her flame. A proper flame that will burn the rot away. If you are truly ash, then it must be fire you seek. We learn Gael knows so much more, and we don't realize it until far after this conversation. We look at this. He is a servant of the painter. His lady. She refers to him as uncle. Whether that's truly their relationship or not, I would lean towards no, because he is a slave. An undead slave, typically sent to war to die. He loves her with everything, and she sees him as some sort of parental figure. And Gael has been searching. He says, you don't know how long I've searched. Gael has a mission, a life mission that he's already embarked on for so long. And yet when we find Gael, he's so weak and small, weeping before painting. But he smells us with a smell that's familiar. He knows we are special. He knows that as one of the Ashen Ones, one of the ones resurrected to right the wrongs of the universe, we have the unique ability. Our soul is powerful and can go where it wishes. We can move from fire to fire. It's an attribute of this game that people don't read into enough. The fact that we can go from a bonfire to another bonfire. We don't walk, we don't travel, we move from place to place, time to time. Gael seems to know. And he wants to use us. He knows that we are supposed to seek fire. And we are not the first Ashen One he's met. We are not the first one who has entered this cold land of Ariandel. Ariandel is a painting, a painted world. As we learned, they are real. They are real places. They are not paint. They are soulish, they are depthful, they have civilization and culture. They are real. They are just as real as anywhere else. So real that even a sorcerer can be born in there, leave and conquer cities and religions, temples, cathedrals. And so, this painted world is real, and his lady is there, and his lady is a painter seeking to paint. And his goal is to reach her. But we are not the first. And he knows we can enter the painting because somebody else has. Frida, a member of the Church of Londor. Only those who are hollow lose purpose. Our character, apart from choices that we make in the game, is not hollow. He has a purpose and a point. And even though we don't know the origin of our character, that doesn't mean our character does not. It is for us to discover, and we can discover some of it. No. These characters that are in this game have purpose and are still the person they were. When we meet a Lord of Cinder, they remember who they were. They remember what they cared about so much that some of them refuse to light the flame. And the same thing applies to the Ashen Ones. And so, Frida has the heart of one of the adherents to the faith of Londor. Those who fight against light and fire. But she also seems disillusioned. And so rather than fighting her fight against the fire in the wake or in the standard normal kingdoms, she enters into a painting, but she still does not desire fire. And the unique thing about the painted worlds is that there is fire within the painted worlds, or there should be. And when there's fire, the world is maintained. It needs the warmth. Without fire, the painted worlds we find become corrupt. They begin to rot. Those within the world begin to decay. There's outbreaks. We have more and more corruption that takes place within these worlds. And so, as we see corruption taking over this place, we look back to the broken Gael, and we realize he is begging for help because he needs it. Gael is weak. While he is a knight, he is broken. And despite his love, just like somebody who looks for help and cannot and begs and pleads because of his inability to help somebody else, he reaches out to the most powerful being he sees. And so Gael asks us to enter the painting, to rescue his lady. But we do not know why yet. We do not know his goal. We enter into the painting of Ariandel. Ariandel, the interesting thing that we must know about the painted worlds, because this is important for knowing the permanency that Gael and the painter hope to apply to a new world when we discover their goals. Gael hands us a scrap of the painting of Ariandel. It is important to note that it's a scrap, yet the world is not destroyed. Paintings exist in a real sense, and if they are shredded and destroyed, they still exist. You only have to have a piece to enter into the whole painting. And so, Gael has a piece. And despite the fact that we have purpose, because we are a soul of great power, and because we are one of the unique beings in this universe who can travel from time and place wherever we desire. We are absorbed into the painting. Gael's request was that we would show her fire, and that ash ignites the fire, and so we would do that. And so, we find, upon entering the painting, why there is no fire. We find that Frida, the other Ashen One, hated the fire, and talks the painter of the fire, Ariandel, who has entered in himself, who clearly has no purpose. He finds purpose in the flame, dedicated to Frida. We hear about Frida's beauty and grace from the citizens of the painting, from the Corvians, who've dedicated themselves to her, the knights. And so we assume that Ariandel was smitten, whether in a parental sense or a romantic sense, it doesn't matter. She wins his favor to such an extent that the way the flame is handled is he flays the skin from his body and douses the flame continually. And so his dedication to Frida is such that he literally lays over a bowl of fire and bleeds to continually extinguish this flame. As our player character, the Ashen Champion, later in the timeline, at the end of time, known for doing great things, one of the great things we accomplish is that we enter into this painting and defeat Frida and Ariandel. We release the flame that just wants to burn. It begins to burn away the corruption as Gael desired, but that's not enough. The painter wants more. She needs more. She says that Uncle Gael is going to bring her some paint. But paint is made of souls, and Gael's love for the painter is deep, so only the most powerful souls will do. Gael's devotion is clear, but if you remember, he is so weak that he even asks for us to enter the painting, because he cannot himself. So, as the fire is released, another thing happens. Our character, being the powerful soul he is, finds another portal. We are driven to the end of time. We are supposed to understand from the visual elements upon entering DLC 2 that this is running parallel to the events that we are in when we fight the Soul of Cinder at the kiln. And so as we look around, the important thing, we remember what was stated about time. That the flow of time is convoluted for champions. But the flow of time is not convoluted for the environment and for the timeline. And so, this explains so much of the things that happen in DLC 2. We are at the end of time. This is happening. This is not a multiverse. There is one solid timeline. And so we are at the end of time as the world is caving in on itself. And so, as we walk around this dreg heap, we see each civilization at the end We see the world destroyed and twisted. We see Lothric, the kingdom of Lothric, falling in on itself, decaying, walls destroyed. We see Merkmen, the men from the deep, the manifestation of the deep in bodily form, crawling about. We see the deep is coming, it's inevitable, and it is here at the end of time. Something is changing. The world is done. We see Earthen Peak, the remnants of it, a kingdom so old that was already in ruins, laying upon its side, barely anything left. And then we fight the same demon prince that Lorien did, as he is brought back into existence at the end of time through the cries of two other demons. They summon his soul back from the fire. We defeat him in the ruins of the original Firelink Shrine. The world is done. Everybody is dead, or dying, or absorbed. As we travel, we see we are being guided by Gael himself for some reason. We think back to time convolution and we realize that champions can move from time to time. But is Gael a champion? He seems so weak. But as we look at his soapstones, his messages, we realize the being standing there is no longer cowering, but leading and guiding and burning power from his messages. They look unique and they look powerful. As we walk through Firelink Shrine, and as we walk through the hole that used to lead us to the very battle with Gwyn in Dark Souls 1, we take a banner called the Small Envoy Banner, and the text is important. A small banner used by envoys of the great Lord Gwyn in the days of yore. And as we find a cliff, we hold up our banner, and the servants of Gwyn swoop down and pick us up. The importance of this should not be missed. The only people who get picked up are the envoys of Gwyn, those faithful to the gods. Why? Where are they taking us? When we land in the Ring City, we are supposed to be, and are even from dialogue, led to see the beauty of this empty place. It's old, but it's not twisted by the fire or lack of fire. It is not falling in on itself. There's something unique here. It seems to be locked away from the events going on in the regular world. And so, because it's DLC, we get excited about the world, but we miss it's not caving in, it's protected, it's unique, and we are supposed to be in awe of this moment. We went from chaos to perfection. We went from ash to flowers. It's supposed to emotionally impact you and make you go, what is this place? It's protected by those faithful to the gods, giants, using light magic, summoning light warriors. There's something here worth protecting. We see the ringed knights, the greatest warriors in the game, in this universe. A single ringed knight is devastating to fight. What are they protecting? What have they bought into? What is this place? As we progress, we hear about this church. We hear about Filianor. We realize that everyone who gets to come to this city shares a goal: to protect Filianor, or to protect the Pygmy Lords. But as we look back to Dark Souls 1, we see the deception. As Gwen masterfully planned this city and gave his daughter gifts as she departed to this ringed city. Filianor is given an egg. She's given a dragon as a protector. Why? Why does Gwen want to protect the Pygmy Lords? Why would he give his own daughter? Whatever the egg is, we don't care. We just know that there is a relationship and there's a gift, and that the goal is to imprison. The goal is to keep the thing that Gwen fears away from the rest of the world. We see the world caving in on itself, and we see a perfect city, beautiful, kept away from the devastation that happens when the light fails, when the fire fades. As we progress through, we see Filianor. And the most shocking thing happens. Still being led by the spirit of Gwen, or by the spirit of Gael. As we find platforms, as we find rags, we see that Gael has not truly been there. But just like when we summon other great warriors from other times to fight in our battles during boss fights, just as they are truly there from another time, Gael, through sheer force of will, which is shown in his boss fight as he's able to summon himself to you, the character. If you look under his feet, there's a white summon stone. It shows that Gael is able to push himself by his own will to wherever he wants. Gael summoned himself for limited times to the ringed city and leads us, his Ashen Champion, the one he knows can do it, leads us to Filianor. And so what do we find? We find Filianor with the gift of Gwen, broken at the end of time, but breathing. And as we reach up and disturb her egg, as we disturb Filianor, something happens. The world around us decays. There was no illusion. The ringed city is protected from time. It's protected from anything that can touch it. And we see that Gwen's goal was to lock it away from everyone. Why? Because the very nature of man is that he is a soul pariah. He is able to absorb souls of great power, and from the beginning of time, the souls of the pygmies were distributed and diluted and weakened into multiple people, and Gwen himself knows that when the soul is manifest in one being, man cannot be stopped. And so as we upset the balance, as we break the spell, whether it's the egg or whether it's Filianor being roused, she's snapped back into the current time. And so where this world is locked away only for the servants of Gwen, only the servants of Gwen can enter. Nobody else can get to this place. It is snapped back into reality. Filianor rots away, aging thousands, hundreds of thousands of years in moments. The ringed city itself becomes ash. You look into the distance and you see the newer cities, the ones that have been maintained, that have not experienced the sudden onrush of age, but have been allowed to age naturally. You see them in the distance, buried in ash but existent. But the ringed city doesn't fare so well. It fares exactly as Filianor did, quickly rotting and aging. But they are not the only ones. The pygmies, the pygmy lords, the original pygmies that were given the dark soul by Manus, those who have the strongest, most concentrated portion of the soul of man, also age. But man, when there is no fire, does not die. And so we learn from the flavor text that their blood dries up, but they are still alive. And as we exit Filianor's Rest, we are greeted by the crawling body of a pygmy lord, freshly slaughtered. As we move forward, we realize it has been a long time. We have traveled into the distant future, through the painting, into the age at the end of time, where we would fight the Soul of Cinder, but we are in a different place. And we are greeted by Gael, who is no longer weak and small, but has been about his business, his commitment to his lady painter. He has slaughtered and murdered and absorbed souls, and he is stronger than we could ever imagine. And we see that Gael himself, understanding who we are, what we've done, reached out and led us, manipulated us to acquire the thing he wanted, the most beautiful, powerful soul for his lady's painting. Where previously Gwyn was in a place without access to the ringed city, as we snapped the ringed city back into time, the pygmy lords manifest in front of Gwyn, but in weakness because of the onset of age, and he slaughters them in his power and steals their souls. For the pygmy lords, they are young, powerful, but snapped back into reality, they quickly age, and standing before them is this massive warrior, great in power and rage. And he starts the slaughter immediately. As Gael has consumed the souls of the pygmy lords, he's beginning to lose purpose. He's accomplished his goal, and men, when they lose purpose, become hollow. During our fight, our weapons do extra damage to him, which shows that he himself is becoming hollow. But he looks to us, and he sees another powerful soul, and he decides to pursue. He sees the Dark Soul and the Ashen Champion, the one who gathered up the one who gathered up all the Lords of Cinder. He knows who we are. There have been tales, we see it in the other flavor texts, of us being the Ashen Champion. He knows, and he says, "Give me that Dark Soul." He knows he needs it for the lady's painting, but he's losing his goals. He's losing his motivation. He has little purpose left with it right in front of him. We defeat Gael. At the end of time, we have consumed every dark soul that exists at the end of time. We are it. We have what the pygmy found in almost full concentration, mixed with blood. And so, As Gael dies, we are reminded what his goal was. And through our character's choice, and through the gathering of the blood of the Dark Soul, we travel through the bonfires, as is our power, as is our unique ability as an Ashen One who is growing in power and strength. And oddly enough, whether Gael intended it or not, whether it was his master design, whether he thought he would have the sanity to bring the blood of the Dark Soul to the painter, or whether he thought we would accomplish things, we go back to Gael's painter. And we give Gael the painting, or we give Gael's soul, Gael's blood of the Dark Soul to the painter. And she says that she will paint a new world. And so, as the world around is falling into ruin, and as we as the player make a choice to light the flame, or, as it would seem is the intended ending of the game, we do not light the flame, but allow an Age of Man to take place. That does not affect the painting. There is now a painted world that is a cold, beautiful place, made from the blood of the Dark Soul. So, we allow that to take place, we enable that to take place, whether Gael used us or not. Whether that was his intention or accident, it takes place. And our character fulfills his destiny, approaching the Soul of Cinder, summoning him, and choosing to light the flame, allow the fire to go out, or become the Lord of Hollows. And that is Dark Souls 3.